Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to my channel. It's time for another voicemail. This voicemail is from Rebecca. Let's hear what Rebecca has to say.
Hi, Lloyd. My name is Rebecca, and I'm from Eastern Canada. I started fading from the Witness organization about, 18 years ago, but really got out 5 years ago. I haven't been disfellowshipped or anything like that, but the last 2 years, my parents and family made the stand to not speak to me anymore, to shun me. And it was mutually accepted because I didn't want my kids. I have three kids, and I didn't want them around that kind of indoctrination. But recently, I think my parents are getting older. They're in their mid to late 70s, and they miss their grandkids and me because we were always very close, like family dinner every Sunday and everything else. So they reached out and they wanted to see the kids. And at first their suggestion was that I drop the kids off to visit with them. And I said no, because I want to hear what they're saying to them. I don't trust that they're not going to try to indoctrinate them. But about a week ago, I spoke with my mom, and I was going through some health problems, so I guess I was a bit emotional too. But they invited us over for a turkey supper, and my sister and her children and husband were there too. And we went over, and they were very pleasant. Obviously, they were happy to see all of us, which, they've been in Witnesses since the 60s, I guess. And my dad was a regular pioneer ministerial servant for many, many years. So they're very into it, I guess you'd say. And I was very shocked that they actually would want to break bread with me, but they did. And going over there, I guess it shocked me because it was kind of like when you break up with somebody and you think you miss them a lot, and then you see them again and you're like, now I know why I broke up. Because as soon as they started the witness talk, it drives me nuts. And the judgmentalness that they have they started to speak very openly. My sister in particular, she's a big gossip, and started to speak very openly about her feelings about other witnesses and things that they're doing wrong. And it just made me sick to my stomach. And I was happy to see the kids playing with their cousins and to see their grandparents. But I am at the other point where I feel like shunning them. I feel like I don't really want that influence around my young children growing up. And I mean, youngish. My oldest is 18. So, they're impressionable youths. And I guess my question is, how do you kind of balance that? Like, if you're in that oddball situation where your family is actually willing to talk to you, because technically I'm in the loophole, I'm not disfellowshipped. How do you kind of balance that between wanting to have that family connection and wanting your children to know their family and their roots, but also protecting your children from being indoctrinated and hearing how they speak? I don't know. It's a weird question. I don't know if you'll actually answer this or not, and I know you're just a man, you've gone through your own experience, and it's not like you're the guru of everything, but I feel like listening to your videos, as I do, you have been through the mill and back, and you might have some advice to offer on that as far as how to balance being out and your family actually being willing to talk to you and still keeping true to your beliefs, which are not believing in witness culture. and protecting your children. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for all your videos. I appreciate the work that you do, and you've helped me to get out, and you've made a difference in my life. So I thank you for that and wish you the best. Thank you. And yeah, you have my permission to share this.
Good.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was a delightful message and very, very interesting. Lots for me to get my teeth into there. And it's an odd situation, which I'm sure many listening in or watching might be a bit envious, in fact, of the situation you're in, where you were being shunned and now you're no longer being shunned, and find yourself in this situation where you're going to family gatherings with believing Jehovah's Witnesses just spouting nonsense. Just assuming that is their normal, isn't it? They're just expecting you to nod along and think that all of this judgmentalism, oh, sister so-and-so did this, can you believe it? As though that's a normal way to live or to treat other people. So yes, interesting situation you're in. I do know a little bit about this because, as you may know, I live with believing Jehovah's Witnesses who aren't shunning me and my wife. I do occasionally get people asking, why is that? How are they not being disfellowshipped for talking to you? And that's not how it works. So Jehovah's Witnesses are strongly encouraged to shun those who are former members who no longer believe, especially those who are disassociated. But it's not itself a disfellowshipping rule. So my in-laws speak to myself and Deanna, knowing that they're not quote-unquote exemplary. So he can't be an elder or a ministerial servant. Neither of them can be pioneers or delegates at international conventions. They're not exemplary witnesses. So just to answer that question. But it does mean I obviously have interaction, and to be honest, I benefit quite a lot when it comes to dealings with my in-laws, due to the fact that I don't speak their language very well. So my Croatian is pretty appalling. If it were better, if I spoke Croatian very well, I fear my relationship with my in-laws would not be as good as it is. Because, as many of you might perhaps have gathered, I tend to say it like it is. I don't beat around the bush with things. And if someone says something stupid in front of me, they're going to find out what I think fairly quickly. And because I can't understand what they're saying most of the time, a lot of that stuff just goes past my radar. And as a result, our relationship's probably better than it would be if I spoke Croatian. So what I'm getting at really in the context of your predicament is, to some degree, you need to be wary of diplomacy. When it comes to family, I'm a big believer that you make your own family. Family, for me, isn't just about DNA and flesh and blood and who you grew up with. You make your own family in life, and your family are the people in your inner circle who love you unconditionally for who you are. What we're talking about here is relatives. They're not really your family, they're your relatives. That's the way I see things, or would see things in your situation. And when it comes to relatives, it really depends how much you're seeing them. What you've described, you say that you used to have Sunday roasts or Sunday meals together, but this sounds like more of a one-off meal where the family was brought together as a one-off. Let's say this sort of thing happens twice a year, or once a year even. And people who have never been Jehovah's Witnesses have this exact same problem when it comes to the infamous Christmas dinner, where the whole family comes together and they've maybe not seen each other all year, and they come together and realize just how different they all are with their political opinions and that kind of thing. For me, that sort of situation is all about diplomacy. You don't all have to be on the same page with things. You don't all have to agree on everything. You just have to get to the end of the evening. That would be my mindset going into that sort of predicament. And I understand your concern is for your children. I think you mentioned one was 18 or thereabouts. That's old enough. That's old enough for them to not be hoodwinked or taken along by this sort of things, provided you're giving them a good debriefing on the way home in the car, so that they don't get tempted to think that some of what they've heard is true or might be true. Yeah, I wouldn't worry overly. As long as you have a good line of communication with your children, and as long as this is like a one-off situation. If it were every week, I would be a little bit more concerned, or especially if, as you say, your JW family were wanting time alone with your children. You're absolutely right to draw the line there and say, you know, we come as a package, thank you. You're not going to just kind of carve us up as you see fit and have free reign to indoctrinate my children without me being there. You took exactly the right stand there, and it's a stand I've taken as well with, or me and my wife have taken with our children. But realistically, how much of an opportunity do they have to indoctrinate your kids on the occasional family meal that's maybe every year or every few months? I would argue it's going to be minimal opportunity to indoctrinate. And actually, I think there's a bonus here. There's a payoff, as it were, when it comes to just pursuing diplomacy, because you need to think about the next generation. I think with Jehovah's Witnesses, it is a very generational thing, and we see this to some extent when you look at the demographic in Kingdom Halls. It's mostly grey heads. I'm not denigrating people who have grey hair. I'm starting to get them myself, but it's mostly older people in this religion who, due to the sunk cost fallacy, can't bring themselves to realize that they've been lied to. I think the younger generation especially are increasingly figuring this out. And it would be nice if your nieces and nephews who are believers could have some peers who are free thinkers, your children, that they can connect with, so they can have effectively a bridge out. If they need some kind of continuity, some kind of familiarity, some kind of support network at some point later on, if they start doubting their beliefs, your children might be the ones to help them. That would be another way of thinking about it, you know. There's something to be said for leaving a path for the next generation to help each other in your family, if that makes sense. And there's a lot to be said, I think, for family diplomacy, especially if, again, this is just an infrequent thing that's happening every few months. That's not to say that everyone needs to navigate these issues the way they see fit. And in situations where someone is being repeatedly subjected to denigrating behavior, to awful ideas, we all get to decide who we hang around with. And we all get to decide who our friends are. No one's forcing anyone to be friends. But I would suggest in the particular situation that you've spelled out, yeah, diplomacy. That would at least be my approach. I don't know all the ins and outs. This is just based purely on what you're telling me. But again, everyone has to figure these things out for themselves. And as you said, I am no expert. I'm just some bloke who likes to listen to these voicemails, because who knows, perhaps someone listening to your voicemail might have an opinion on it or a perspective that makes far more sense than mine, and they can drop it in the comments below. But that's all I have to say on this particular voicemail. Don't forget that if you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering that if you don't want me to play your voicemail or broadcast it in any way, you should make this absolutely clear. But that's all I have for you. Please do subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.